I can say one thing for sure, in that what people think they're going to do, what they say they're going to do, what you think they're going to do, and what they actually do is never the same thing. Like, one thing is that people are going to be irrational, and that's the one certainty around this whole theme around behavior change. And
put some friction in there can be actually helpful to get utilization, people to actually use something. Because one of the things that we struggle a lot with, or we see benefits leaders struggling with, is just getting utilization of these amazing things that they're giving to employees, and for free, right?
It's probably the only benefit where there's the cost impact, not just in terms of salary sacrifice, but in terms of saving on commuting costs and all that sort of thing. Hey everyone, welcome to the latest episode of the Friends with Benefits podcast, the essential podcast for rewards and benefits leaders. I'm Carl, VP of Benefits Strategy and Partnerships here at Ben, and as usual, joined by my co-host.
I'm David, one of the co-founders here at Ben. And today, we should have a really fun conversation, a really good episode. We have Dino from CycleSaver. Maybe we can start with a quick introduction to yourself and a quick introduction to CycleSaver, if you don't mind.
Sure. So my name's Dino Bertolis. I now run and founded a company called CycleSaver. It's sometimes known as city bike hire in some circles, especially in the benefit space. What we do is we provide salary sacrifice benefits for these city bike hire or bike share schemes like Lime and Forest, etc. So that's what I do at the moment. But it's been quite a wild ride because I'm actually a qualified actuary by profession.
Right.
So I started out in insurance and did the consulting thing for 3 years. And from then, qualified as an actuary, decided I wanted to move into product development at an insurance company. Discovery, Vitality. You're known as Vitality as an insurance company in the UK. It's quite unusual for actuaries to be involved in product development. Actuaries, if you don't know, are the people that you sort of shove in the back office and say, please go calculate the premiums for me.
I was going to say, I've worked with a lot of actuaries. Normally getting an actuary on a podcast would be a challenge.
Exactly. So that's what I did. I was in the product development space for Discovery and Vitality. And what I did is designed the rewards and benefits that try to nudge people's behavior, make them better drivers, make them healthier. So I did that in South Africa for a couple of years, moved to the UK in 2018, where my remit was around life insurance, health insurance, and a newly formed car insurance division, and was to try nudge people to be healthier, to be better drivers, those sorts of things. I left Vitality, and this I'm getting to sort of how we got to CycleSaver. Left Vitality, and I decided that the Vitality model of changing behavior could apply to sustainability, which was becoming a more important part of daily life. I wanted to focus on commuting and trying to measure and reduce emissions from commuting. And we had a cool mobile app that did this, and we gave rewards and benefits to nudge people to be more sustainable. With that, I saw the rise of taking a Lime bike or Forest bike, the Forest bike, where all these bike share schemes are becoming more popular as a reward that we gave people. But there was a thing missing, and that was salary sacrifice for these schemes.
Yeah.
All the traditional cycle to work schemes are just focused on buying a bicycle.
Yeah.
And there was this massive gap where people could be saving a lot of money. So we actually pivoted the entire business to what is now CycleSaver, and we're a salary sacrifice scheme for these providers, very much complementary to your traditional cycle to work scheme. But yeah, I've been sort of cutting my teeth in behavior change for 10 years. Yeah.
And so, from behavior change to sustainability, kind of, what was is just something you're passionate about, or yeah?
Yeah, it was. I think a natural evolution of the technology. To give you some background, I was a specialist actuary in car insurance, and there's a concept called telematics, where it's just the tracking of your driving.
Yeah.
Most people are familiar with it.
Yeah.
Maybe for those who are not, like, so what is telematics?
Telematics is just the ability to track your driving behavior. In the UK, commonly known as black box, where it's a literal black box in your car. But that was moving very much to mobile telematics. So an app, a download on your phone that could track your movements.
Right.
This is like in the insurance space, car insurance space specifically, super well-known technology. But in sustainability, this was like a new thing that could measure emissions, which was sort of everything before that was very inaccurate and not that granular.
Right.
So we moved into a space where it could be granular, using technology from the insurance side of things. So yeah, that's
Amazing.
sort of that's the story of how we go into sustainability.
Really great. Should be a fun conversation, obviously, and we'll hear a lot more around behavior change and some of these other concepts, right, that you just mentioned. I guess we'd like to start the podcast with a bit of something that's in the news recently. I think you actually suggested this stat yourself, right? So like something that's come up is around 57%. There's been a 57% increase in cycling in the city of London between 2022 and 2024. So
Huge.
any thoughts? Like,
It
where is this coming
it's,
from?
It's absolutely huge because it's not that there weren't lots of cyclists around that time. There's been, especially in London, plenty of cyclists, and it's increased 57%. So just for some context, the City of London does a survey on the streets of the city,
Right.
and they measure the traffic going past. Cars, taxis, cyclists, etc. So their measurements from 2022 and 2024 were compared, and there was a 57% increase in cycling. So you got to ask yourself why, and it's primarily driven by these bike share schemes, these bike hire schemes like Lime and Forest, etc. It's just become so much more accessible and easy for people to hop on these bikes that is driving this new wave of cyclists. It's interesting to sort of put that alongside another stat where the number of bikes being sold in the UK last year was the lowest since the 1970s.
Wow.
So you've got these two things. People are buying less bikes, but then there's a 57% increase. How do you explain that? It's because of how popular these bike hire schemes have become.
Do you think the bike hire schemes also had a negative effect in terms of people actually buying bicycles? Potentially, who knows, right? But,
Potentially, I would say there's a bigger effect of people who would never consider getting on a bicycle who actually are now opting to go and do their commute on those bikes.
And why do you think now, right? Because these schemes have been Lime. I remember when it was all the craze around, the Oyos and like all these other bike schemes that were coming up and from China, etc. That you just left everywhere, right? And why now in terms of this increase?
I think there's been an interesting dynamic around e-bikes.
Right.
They've become a lot more affordable.
Yeah.
And a lot more affordable to deploy in the streets of any major city. E-bikes are really interesting in that you don't need to be super fit to hop on a bicycle. I think that was a big barrier to people. I need to be really fit. I need to be a cyclist to cycle to work. This is sort of a lot more casual. If you're anyone, just hop on a bike. It's sort of effortless. Linked to that is showering at work and just feeling exhausted and sweaty before a meeting or what may be.
Yeah.
So you combine those two things. It's now effortless, a lot quicker, and you don't have to worry about showering. And it becomes a feasible way to actually get to work.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise that statistic wouldn't surprise me UK wide. It surprises me in the City of London because it's a bit like taking your life into your own hands out there. Sometimes when you're cycling around, or you'd know better than me, Dave. You cycle everywhere, but like I've done it a few times. I'm like, this is a bit hairy, like especially around central London. But people are obviously doing it. So
and there's been a lot of effort and investment into cycle lanes.
Yeah, sure.
Long way to go, but even from I've been in the city now for 6-7 years. I've seen a massive change from then of the sort of the cycle lanes available from then.
The conditions have been improving dramatically. Yeah. I mean, I started cycling in it was COVID because of couldn't get around anywhere else, right? And it's like I never did it before, and then I got into cycling. I did first got like a leasing of one of these bike share schemes, and then sort of decided to just buy one because it was just I don't go in the tube anymore. Because just cycling is just so much better, right? There's just a way to go around, and I'm one of the lazy ones who use an e-bike, so that's me. It works for me.
Exactly.
But I guess like we'd love to start or to change the topics a little bit to go back to sort of that behavioral change question. You've obviously explored that a ton with your work at Discovery Vitality and now in terms of what you're doing. So I guess, what works?
Man, it's a tricky question. I can say one thing for sure, in that what people think they're going to do, what they say they're going to do, what you think they're going to do, and what they actually do is never the same thing. Like one thing is that people are going to be irrational, and that's the one certainty around this whole theme around behavior change and nudging people in the right direction. I mean, there's a couple things over the years that I think I've learned, and I'll try to maybe provide some examples. The one is sort of reward. Everyone loves financial rewards. It's a no-brainer. If things are cheaper, if you're giving them money or something that's worth something, people like that. But there's this interesting dynamic, and being in these teams, we discussed every possible reward you can imagine. An Amazon £5 voucher is one that's very often discussed as you can use Amazon voucher for anything. And we always counted this with another small value thing of like coffee. Yeah. Like if you got a free coffee. And then there was a lot of discussion around what's better. Financially, the Amazon voucher is better, right? So you think people prefer that. But I would argue from our perspective as someone providing rewards, the coffee is always going to be better because it's experiential. It's an experience of stepping out the office, going to your favorite coffee shop, getting a coffee, enjoying it, getting that caffeine rush. And it's something to keep in mind with rewards and benefits just generally.
Yeah.
As much as the monetary rewards are important, it's really important to try to create an experience around that, to try to celebrate that. So that's one thing. I mean, there's quite a few examples as well. Another thing to touch on is sort of timing and duration. What we found was really interesting. We had two types of rewards. The one reward was something that just accrued every time you hit X number of points or whatever. So every time you hit, for example, 50 points, you get a reward. So it wasn't time bound. It was sort of as and when you earn these 50 points, you got a reward.
And the reward lasts forever.
Well, yeah, it would be valid for a month, let's say, or whatever the reward may be.
Yeah.
Whereas the other rewards, we sort of said, well, listen, you have to get a certain number of points within a week. So you got two very different types of rewards. You can't even compare how much better the time-bound rewards were, because it actually put pressure on people to do those things and to change their behaviors.
Yeah.
And you can even understand it from a personal experience. If you say every 10 gym visits, you're going to get a reward, there's always, today is not the day, tomorrow I'm going to gym. But when you say, listen, you have to go to gym 3 times this week, then the time pressure's on, and then you actually change your behavior legitimately. Those are two examples. And as time goes on, I'm sure I'll think of more.
I guess did you go through any sort of experience or experiments where stuff didn't work as well? That's also fun in terms of like, hey, we tried this thing, we thought it was going to work, but it didn't. Like anything that comes to mind? Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I'll tell you an interesting dynamic. So I'm very fortunate that I had this opportunity to build behavior change programs across various themes or different businesses. Car, health,
very different,
right? All very different. So we were assuming we had built in the UK a very strong business around life and health insurance and people sharing their data around the activity and heart rate and these sorts of things, and people did it completely willingly, not a problem. So we thought, well, they're sharing their health and data with us. Surely that's going to copy over to car insurance. People are happy to, if they're getting rewards, they're going to share their data.
Plus, I mean, you think people would be less likely to share their health data than they would to share driving data, right? So
Yeah. But that was completely wrong. Like we actually got into a lot of barriers around people willing to share their driving data compared to
I'm not sure I'd
health.
want to share my driving.
Well, exactly.
Well, would you want to share your health data though? Yeah, there you go. So
Exactly. So I mean, that's just. I mean, if you don't have the data, how do you even change behavior? How do you know what people are doing? So that was a huge challenge in trying to convince. And there was a lot of work being done around, ensuring the data is safe, and we're only using it for certain rewards, and there's only positives associated with it. So it's a huge challenge, and it's only going to continue more and more as time goes on around the sharing of data and how much people are willing to.
would you reward people for sharing the data or no?
Well, it's inherent in the model. As soon as you received data, you would be able to earn points, and then you'll be able to earn.
As in, like, hey, for you to participate in the program, the reward is participating in the program, effectively. Because I always wondered, like, hey, can you get data by just rewarding people for submitting the data, right? So
and I think there is sort of incentives you can do in that sort of space. And another thing is that back to the sort of comment around how people's behavior is surprising. You can give all these free things and make the effort on an employee side minimal, but some people just may not do it. You know? There's like hundreds of pounds of rewards available, and all it requires is an app download.
Not some.
Well, I think therein lies the inherent problem in employee benefits and health, right? Actually, in many ways, is that you've got this massive problem that exists everywhere around the world around health inflation, cost inflation around healthcare. Companies try and provide more and more things to their employees in terms of, gym memberships or cycle to work schemes or whatever it may be to try and drive positive health behaviour. Doesn't seem to work. People aren't. I don't know why do you think that is?
Well, it's really interesting. There's one dynamic we figured out through testing a whole bunch of rewards and benefits, and that is, if you give something for free to everyone without any effort, the utilization of that is not as good as something that requires, even if it's a small little amount of effort. We actually saw that if we made people just do a little bit of effort, they felt that they earned that reward that was theirs. And then they deserve the discount. They deserve this free thing. So it might be something for the viewers of this podcast to think about. Is there a way to just make it a very small barrier, but enough for people to think that they deserve this and they've earned it? Yeah. And I think that's a really powerful tool.
I think it could be something to think about in benefit space in general, right? Why do you just give all this stuff to people as opposed to making them do something? Put some friction in there can be actually helpful to get utilization, people to actually use something. Because one of the things that we struggle a lot with, or we see benefits leaders struggling with, is just getting utilization of these amazing things that they're giving to employees, and for free, right? Like you do nothing and you get all these amazing benefits, whereas maybe there's something in there to be like, hey, maybe it should be a little bit harder actually for you to get access to all these things.
Well, I mean, one of the frictions that was put in originally on around a lot of these things was the time bound element you're talking about, right? So like you have a month to make this decision. The enrollment window. But
and we always see that people will wait until the last second, right?
Exactly.
You can give people 2 months or a week.
Yeah.
They're going to wait until the last day to decide everything, which is...
I see the same thing my side. We run on these monthly cycles where people can sort of change their subscription month on month. And it tends to be really quiet in the beginning of the month. But then the last couple days is when everyone realizes, oh, I need more minutes, I need less minutes, etc., etc.
I guess like one of the things that and it's probably relevant to the cycle work side of it as well, and Carl also talks about it, is like the investment that companies need to do in prevention as opposed to waiting for the problems to appear later on, right? Like obviously rewarding people for behaviors and things like that is something that Vitality is huge on, or Discovery was. So like, anything that you see sort of work in that sense, so like how do you get employees to help them with, again, sort of prevention as opposed to waiting for the worst to happen?
Yeah, it's really important. And I think there's been so many studies over the years showing that every pound spent on prevention is worth, 10 pounds later on down the line. So everyone knows that prevention is worthwhile exploring. It's just, especially as a reward or benefit professional, when do you cross the line of sort of, forcing a lifestyle on someone that they don't really want to do? So I think I always say it's just giving them the tools that allow people to do that. Not that people are going to use these tools, but just making it accessible to people. Yeah. Another thing I'll say is, I think a lot of companies try to do too much at once, all the time. I mean, I think what tends to work way better is just a single campaign focusing on a single thing. If that's a success, or you can get learnings from that and then develop that as time goes on. From the reward perspective, what we've learned over the years of tweaking these rewards and benefits is you don't want to make too many changes at once, because when we announce these new changes, typically people have 1 or 2 takeaways of what's changed and what they need to do. So anything more than that, people just get overwhelmed and actually don't engage in the thing. So you really need to focus down on one thing that needs to change. It needs to be a takeaway. And then from there you can build on.
I think that's been proved in practice as well, hasn't it? When you're trying to think about, I'm going to improve the health of an organisation, it almost seems insurmountable, right? Because it's so vast and vague. The narrowing down. I mean, if you sort of think of one of the most successful national health campaigns ever is the NHS Stop Smoking campaign, right? So like in the last 20, 30 years, they've managed to reduce smoking down from, I think like 50%, 40%, 50% of people down to like under 10% of people. Don't get me started on the vaping side of things, but do you know what I mean? So I think focusing, like you say, focusing in on one particular thing, how do we solve that one problem, clearly works.
Definitely. And then you layer that one thing on top of what we spoke about a bit earlier around these short time horizons. It's not sort of like, how to get a 6-pack. It's sort of, well, go to gym once next week. And then maybe in a month's time, go twice a week. It's sort of really narrowing it down into these short-term goals. And then that's how you build these sort of long-term goals.
And I think, with people are just in general bad at sort of estimating or focusing on the long term, right? As opposed to like thinking about the short term instant gratification. So is there anything around that as well, like motivating that lifestyle change that focuses on the long term as opposed to the instant gratification now?
Oh, it's interesting. As time goes on, we've seen through TikTok and all these things, it's all about those short-term dopamine hits that happen every now and then. Well, what I'd like to say is, if you can't beat them, join them, right?
But there's something there.
There is something there in that people struggle to think about the long term. And when I say people, I include us. Yeah. It's hard. And this has been shown many times over in the pension space. How do you think about something that's going to happen in like 40, 30 years time and putting money away for all that time? It's too abstract. It doesn't seem tangible. So the way you sort of, with all these long-term goals, you just make it short-term. How do you compress it into, well, what do I need to do in the next week? What do I need to do in the next month? And if you can design a program that gives you that dopamine hit or financial benefit in the short term, it could actually help you with your long-term goals.
And sort of with reward, but there's always the carrot and the stick, right? Like, so have you used the stick as well? So like, as in, do you disincentivize or like do something to
you've opened up you've opened up a can of worms. I have nothing against the stick approach. Right? So I have nothing against a stick approach, but I would say from a brand perspective, and whether, for any of the viewers, whether that's the company brand, for the personal benefits team brand, from a brand perspective, the stick isn't that great of a look, right? Whereas the carrot is a lot better. It's sort of, we only want to be rewarding good behavior. We don't want to be penalizing bad behavior. So that's why I'd always err more on the side of, put more carrots than sticks.
If you don't go to the gym, you lose your health insurance.
Yeah, I'm not sure that would fly.
There'll be a lot of uninsured people on the streets.
Yeah, it's like if you weigh more, you pay more on an aeroplane, right? That sort of stuff. Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
So he's a fit thin guy.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm not at all. So I just actually the stick works with me, right, as opposed to the carrots. So it was like, hey, if I don't do this, you see a lot of these campaigns of people trying to scare people into doing things, right? Are those effective at all? I mean, they must be because people keep using them, right? So, but it sounds like
it is effective.
Yeah.
I'd say it is effective, and there is a place for it. I just think for ongoing behavior change across months, across years, the scare tactic across that period of time is just not going to work.
Yeah.
I think the carrot is much better when you do those long time frames.
Again, something for people to think about, right? So it was like, as they're trying to design sort of how do you get utilization up on these types of programs? How do you reward people for doing things as opposed to penalize them? Makes sense. I guess, how do you take some of these lessons, right, from what you learned at Vitality Discover to what you're doing now on the cycle space? Again, people don't generally, or a lot of people struggle with that behavior change, right? In terms of from stopping from driving to actually cycling, say, for example.
So I'm very fortunate in that the providers, our partners like Lime, Forest, all these, city bike hire schemes have done the hard work of behavior change. And the reason I say that is when you walk out the front door, you have options of how you're going to get to work. Right? You can, in London specifically, you take the tube, take the bus, you can use your own bicycle or use these bike share schemes. Because they've made it so much more accessible to people, where there's one available on your street corner, it's become, there's hardly any friction in that process. Has helped this become a really popular way of getting to work. Then what we do as CycleSaver is allow employees to save up to 47% through salary sacrifice. So what we've done now is we've added, as slick as it is, we've added that financial element to it. So you've got this easier, better way to get to work that lands up also being cheaper, and then it sort of becomes a no-brainer for a lot of people. I must also say that the alternative of taking the tube is also a horrible alternative.
Well, I guess those people that are, perhaps time poor as well. So maybe there's an element of you'll get to your destination either maybe a little bit quicker or, same amount of sort of time. But I guess for those that are time poor, there's an element of your daily exercise is perhaps done in your commute rather than having to carve out another hour or so to go to the gym. Not suggesting people shouldn't go to the gym, but I guess there must be an element of that as well, right? Like
Exactly.
My commute becomes my daily exercise.
Daily exercise, fresh air, sunlight. I mean, for me, and unfortunately, the tube still is the best way to get masses of people from A to B. Yeah. But this has become a nice alternative in that you can start your day off a good note. Especially, driving around or cycling around London is fantastic. There's lots of history and beautiful views to see. It's a good way to start your morning, and you get the heart pumping, the blood pumping a bit. So it's a really good start to the day, I'd say.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's something I wonder sometimes is with these kinds of schemes, right, where there is no commitment? So like part of the reason why I started doing the cycling thing is like I made a commitment. I was like, hey, I bought this thing. Or in my case, I was leasing it. So I was like, hey, I'm paying all this money. I need to use it now. And then sort of that got me started. Whereas maybe with something like the bike share, there isn't that commitment. So you think that discourages people from using it somehow? Maybe not. I don't know.
But no, you're right, because I would say the biggest thing is to commit to an e-bike. You would know this.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. And
I can only do it because of salary sacrifice, because I pay it monthly, right?
Exactly. So you get all those benefits. And I think there'd be hardly anyone investing over £1,000 into a bicycle if they were unsure about like whether we're actually going to enjoy it, whether they're going to use it frequently, whether there was a safe place to park it. Whereas now I think you could get into sort of your situation where you hop on these bikes, realize you like e-bikes, you could actually make this a habit and do it all the time.
Yep.
And then you eventually buy your own bike.
Do you think that happens quite a bit? Or
Definitely. So we see ourselves as a complementary scheme to Cycle to Work, the traditional Cycle to Work where you buy a bike, which it is. So the ones for owning a bike, the other ones for these bike hire schemes. But the two complement each other really well in that there's cross subsidization across the two. There's people, don't want to own a bike anymore, it's not worth it, but let's hop on these schemes. And there's those people that are willing to now buy bikes. So I would say what both those schemes do is it's not just a switch from one to the other. It's moving a whole lot of people that are using alternatives like buses, like tubes, and getting them to cycling. That's where actually all this uptake is coming from.
But these schemes as well, it amazes me. I live in a little town in rural Norfolk, and they have these ports with these bikes. Like that are just it's mad. They're everywhere now, aren't they?
It's part of the whole sustainability drive where city centres especially, and this is across the UK, across Europe, but potentially across the world, where they're discouraging driving. They don't want people to drive, especially in dense urban areas. What is the alternative? Well, one of the alternatives is setting up these schemes. And we're just seeing, they're expanding across the UK, and many cities are doubling down on their existing schemes. So becoming really popular.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, and what about, so you mentioned the sustainability benefits, like how are companies taking advantage of that as well? Or like, do they care?
They do. They do. What we're seeing is a lot of interest of companies, especially ones with that use company cars, that go to meetings quite frequently. They're trying to get their employees to travel to meetings on these bikes. Yeah. Of course, safety is always a consideration. And then with that, they're also investing in helmets and these sorts of things to make sure that their workforce is safe if they're using this for meetings. But there's this definite drive to get people to exercise more and also to be more sustainable in terms of how they commute.
And do you think they track, or do do they help them track the CO2 benefits or the sustainability benefits at all, or is it?
So each of the providers are quite big into that. So within the app, you'll be able to see your trips, the CO2, the number of miles cycled, etc. We do give that information over to employers. They enjoy it. Some like it more than others. It depends sort of what we find. We get incredibly strong traction from B Corps and companies that care about sustainability. This is sort of like a win-win for them where they're encouraging more of their staff to be more active, be more sustainable.
And for a lot of these schemes, is the electricity actually coming from renewable sources then? Like, is that where it's, where's the electricity coming from? Are they sort of publishing those details? Or?
Yes, there are. So, two of the local providers, Forest now has signed a deal with Octopus where it's all renewable. Lime, I've done a tour of their factory. They recycle as many parts as possible. It's quite fascinating. You look at a part, like a broken wheel or whatever, maybe a broken brake, and you think this part is completely finished. Chuck it in the bin. They're like, oh no, this is still a reusable part. We're just going to add this, and this, and we can make it a functioning part again. So all these providers are focusing. Electricity must be renewable, and also the maintenance of the bike. Try avoid as many sort of new parts as possible.
I've noticed as well some of the poor souls that drive these vans around picking the bikes up from rivers or wherever they end up and putting them back on the stands. They're all electric now as well, all the vans that are doing that, I've noticed. So, it seems like a pretty good system. Yeah,
it's the circular sustainability economy, right? You've got to be as sustainable as possible.
Yeah.
And do you think companies, or do you think most folks are doing it or actually maybe we pause it, how are companies helping employees to move to this mode as well? Obviously there's a salary sacrifice, but do you see companies doing anything else to encourage this type of?
Yes, and usually it's via me. Well, I say me as the company and the other sort of cycle to work providers. I always put myself out there and offer as much help as they would like from me. The ones that I find really care about this, maybe that's a bit harsh. Some people in benefits and rewards and HR and people are really busy and they don't have time to invest a lot of time in one benefit. You guys, I'm sure, appreciate that. Many of the people on this webinar can appreciate that. But those who do have the time and invest, we do see measurable results in terms of take up and people trying it out. And if they want to do sort of give free vouchers to their employees and get people to try it out, we will help them, assist them in that, and that does work.
So like giving that initial financial incentive to say, hey, here's a voucher or here's an amount of money or something that you can allocate to this. Does that increase the use? Does it actually increase the usage rate?
Definitely. Yeah, I'd say so. It's intimidate. All these things, it's intimidating to try something new.
Yeah.
So I've spoken about like how the friction is removed with these bike hire schemes, but there's still a big red bus on the streets of London that's quite intimidating that you need to cycle next to. So it's just about sort of familiarizing yourself, getting used to it, and that is how we convert a lot of people to these
What about
providers.
just explaining it? Like, do people get it? Because it's hard. It might be a bit of a difficult thing to understand, right? So there's the salary sacrifice element, and there's like, the ride sharing element. So like, yeah, if you haven't tried it before, just getting people used to the idea, or like explaining how it all works and what the benefits are.
I mean, that's a lesson. You asked me about lessons from my behavior change, product development space into CycleSaver now.
Yeah.
One lesson, which is just, it's like fundamental, is just make it as easy as possible for employees. I mean, for some rewards that we've introduced over the years, required multi-step linking processes where you link it this way, then you got to link this, then you get a code, and then you go install, and then it's like this whole complicated, like intricate. It just, those rewards never sort of click because
a little bit of friction is good, but a lot of friction not so good.
So you want to make it as simple as possible for people to get involved.
It is interesting though, isn't it? Like, I was just thinking about it. Like, it's probably the only benefit where there's the cost impact. Not just in terms of salary sacrifice, but in terms of saving on commuting costs and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You've got the health agenda, and you've got the sustainability agenda, all wrapped into one thing. Like, there's nothing else that's anywhere close to that. I wouldn't suggest.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Yeah. I mean, that's why we see really good traction off the back of.
But I think for the employee, but also the employer perspective, right? Like, both of those,
you're hitting all
those
the points,
areas apply to both. To both.
And yet, like, we see very low utilization in general across like different cycle to work schemes. I guess like on a whole population basis, right? Like, it's really hard to get, if you're getting 10%, 15, like that's really difficult to do, right? Yeah. Which is crazy, right? 10% not a lot, right?
Exactly.
But it's really hard to get 10% of utilization on a scheme, like even cycle to work in general. I guess with what you're doing, maybe it's a little bit better because there's more accessible and people don't. Do they have to commit a ton?
No. So the subscriptions are flexible. So you can sort of join for the warmer months, and then come winter, you can cancel your subscription. We see much better take-up rates because of that.
Yeah.
Flexibility is no need to commit. What I would say is that, like, right now, as it stands, you're looking at 3-4 cities across the UK where this is a really popular way of getting around. London dominates.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But what we are seeing is as certain cities get more dense, there's more urban population there, and as these providers are doubling down on these regions, we are getting better take-up rates in other regions. So yeah, I think these things take time, and as time goes on, I think this will become a more commonplace way of sort of getting around.
And obviously, it's just in the UK, right, where these things are. You guys are only operating in the UK as well.
Yeah, I mean, as a cycle to work salary sacrifice scheme, that's specific UK legislation. That said, I mean, apart from the salary sacrifice elements, just e-scooters, e-bikes, you go to sort of any major European city and they're scattered all over the place. They've become really big and really popular.
I presume in other countries in Europe and around the world, there's other sort of initiatives. Like, I can't imagine the Dutch haven't got some kind of, either state-run or...
They definitely got something right with the cycling thing, no?
They do.
It's flat. Right?
That's right.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So I think there's something in Netherlands. I mean, for now, we're focusing on the UK. It's just where the biggest opportunity is. But that's not to say that there's not a tax incentive elsewhere that would expand.
Sure.
So yeah, it's just if you can make things cheaper for more people, then you got to go and explore that.
And do you think there are any, so I guess from your lessons, any tips and tricks for reward leaders, for benefits leaders out there, or well-being folks who are listening and wanting to do this? Like, how do they get started? What tips do you have for implementing these types of schemes? So,
I mean, I've given a couple examples throughout the podcast that I hope they would take. A big theme across this whole thing is make it time-bound. I think that however that plays out, that's quite an important thing, just behaviorally.
As in, hey, we're launching this thing. You have, or how would you do that? Like specific.
So this is a tricky. I would put a campaign that's time bound, because this is sort of an anytime benefit you can take out, and you wouldn't want to restrict people. Yeah. But maybe there's a promo you do in the first month, and then it's that month you have the opportunity there. Yeah. After that month, it's done. Sort of you got to sort of make these promos short-lived.
Do it in summer.
That's a good time.
This is interesting though, isn't it? Because this market has moved towards anytime benefits. It's what everyone talks about is anytime benefits, but that's not time bound. That's the complete opposite, isn't it? And to your point earlier, it's inertia sets in. I'll I'll kick that can down the road. So maybe we do need to move back to more of a world where it's.
We're all against enrollment windows.
But it's sort of like I always put it back to gym, right? Like you sign up to gym, you can go to gym at any point in the year, but there's always this, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it next month, and it's how do you still enable that flexibility that I can go anytime, but what's going to just give me that extra nudge, just be like, okay, now's the time to go. Back to your question, I would also say don't try to do everything all at once. Have these focus campaigns. I know a lot of great companies in the space with rewards and benefits, they tend to have quite a nice calendar around different months, different seasons, what they're going to promote in each of those months. And
while you're there, have you seen any particular successful campaigns that really drove utilization or usage?
So I don't get visibility of all the data and all the campaigns that happen across. What I can say is for those companies that do webinars with us that give free cycling to a certain number of employees, those have been really good in terms of uptake. Another thing that my time at working for corporate is, and there was a month where whoever got the most steps in a month I think there was a prize. And that was like, again, it's time bound. It was easy to engage. You just needed to record your steps. The whole company was involved and there was a reward at the end of the day. So that was like a brilliant thing that got the company going and moving and walking.
I mean, that's you hear a lot about gamification, don't you? So, and that to me is one of the areas, certainly in terms of behavioural changes, if you gamify it, especially for men, like the competition element. I think that's quite an interesting thing as well.
It is, and you get different. I mean, what you get. Some people. We interviewed people to see what rewards they wanted and what drove them to take out certain rewards and to participate in these programs. Most people, the vast majority, like the financial benefits. You get a free something, a discount on something. Yeah. There's the slither of people, I would estimate them at around 10%, maybe 10 to 20%. They're just super competitive. Yeah. All they want to do is just win. And you know what? And that's something that you need to take advantage of. Some people want to win. They want to be top. They want to engage in competition. And you need to leverage that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Anything else that you'd want to add, kind of as we're kind of starting to wrap up here, right? In terms of about CycleSaver, about people getting started, any other tips, tricks?
I mean, I hope this has been useful for people, and just in terms of some of the tricks that I've picked up over the years. I think instead of applying them verbatim as the examples I've given, I think there's definitely scope to tweak and apply to how you see fits in your certain business. But from that, I think I've covered most things.
Amazing. We always like to end the podcast with a bit of a segment on any sort of hot take or any kind of controversial opinions that you have. Okay. Anything comes to mind?
This is not controversial.
Okay.
But I'm an outsider, you would say, and actually that's sort of fallen into the space of rewards and benefits. And my first impression of rewards and benefits leaders, managers, people managers and leaders was that it's a very small remit. It's like you're doing rewards and benefits and you specialize in that space and that's all you do, right? As I've come to interact with a lot more of these people, I can say it's one of the roles where I think you have to know a lot about a lot. Yeah. It's like internally what's going on, externally what's going on. You've got to learn about the technology, learn about the benefits available. So I have
they're all slightly different. There's tax. There's
exactly. So I have a much larger respect for people in the space, and I think the best people that I've interacted with and the best people that will continue being great in these roles are those that have quite a wide breadth of knowledge and just use that effectively across the organization. So that's my hot take as a really complete outsider perspective.
I'll try consulting on it. That's really challenging.
Amazing. Well, Dino, thanks so much. It was a great conversation.
Really appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me. Much appreciated, guys.
Good. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you would, please do subscribe on Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube. See you next time.